welcome to Lorehammer, the 40K podcast, where in this episode we talk about Imotekh the Stormlord, the biggest, baddest Necron ruler of them all, in my opinion. That's probably already pissed some people off. But hey, welcome to the show. I'm Mark, and joining me, we got a big old panel of people here. Let's start with Jordan. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, we're doing very good. We also got Gerald.
Hello, this roster seems very stacked, and I feel a little underqualified this episode.
Among the vaulted likes of Gerald. And we also, sneaking in from the new ranks, we got Nemo. Welcome.
Can you see me now?
That's a good intro, yes. He has revealed his face, as they all do. It doesn't take long before we're all whoring ourselves out on the OnlyFans, so go check that out.
And now they need the neuralizer because they can see my face.
Yeah, we live stream. Go check that out, but we'll get to that in a second. We got some housekeeping we'll just go through before we get into this episode of Imotekh the Stormlord and his dynasty. We have merchandise. Go to Redbubble. You can buy t-shirts, you can buy dice bags, you can buy all types of things. It's a pretty cool place, I suppose. Go check it out. Support the show.
Did you know that we have a Discord? You know, on that Discord, I had an interesting thing happen to me. I found the Ecclesiarch Grimaldus, and I brought him home, and he's in my basement. You can't have him back. But in more seriousness, sometimes a meetup happens if someone's in your general region. It's pretty nice. We got a voice chat on there. We've got all kinds of really nice stuff. Sometimes giveaways. It's fun. You should join us.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that you guys kind of just met up through the Discord. Nice. I don't know if that happens very often. I know it's happened a couple times, but it's a rare love story.
You think I should take him for a walk? He's still down there.
No, as long as he's got a laptop and access to the Discord, he's fine, I think.
Just look at Lorehammer, just bringing everybody together, just like the glue.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about those guys on the Discord. Not sure. Not sure.
They're always hitting on Jordan. Yeah.
Well,
I'm infinite.
I was gonna say, if you think that's bad, check out the Grimlord Discord. Good grief.
Good grief.
Remember, it can always get more grimdark.
It can. I'm infamous for inviting people over to my garage off the internet, so I love it. I think that's how you make the best friendships. They either end horribly, where somebody's like threatening you with a knife, or you're rolling dice with them to this day.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Maybe sometimes.
Maybe the knives are balancing dice.
But on top of joining the Discord, you could also help us out by joining the Patreon. For $2.50, you can get access to ad-free versions of the Spotify. And then for $5, you can get access to the live stream. We always take call-in guests. That's always a lot of fun. You get to see our lovely faces, even though I don't know why Mark keeps inviting me back on here to show my face. So that's beside the point. So come join the Patreon. You get a lot of fun stuff. You help out a good show. It's a great time.
Yeah, and hey, you stole my thunder. I was going to talk about the live stream, but yeah, you guys can join the live stream, and as usual, I drink some whiskey and I discuss Warhammer, so you can crack a cold one open or whatever your preferred accoutrement might be, and join us. It's fun, man. It's fun, and you can be a call-in guest at the end of the show.
Yeah, I can love the call-ins. All right, so we're ready. I know that the room is full of Necron fanboys. The screen is overtaken by Necron artwork right now. Let's go around. What do you guys all know? Your one-sentence teaser about Imotekh. We'll start with Gerald.
Imotekh? Totally not an Imhotep ripoff from the Mummy. Pretty badass until Zarek decided he wanted to come back and unite the Necron race. So he is basically the archetypical Necron, and yeah, that's all I got to say for right now.
Yeah, he's a pretty sweet character. He gotten a couple tizzies with that one Black Templar guy. I can't remember his name, but
yeah,
yeah, he's
Halbert.
He takes he takes pride in the Necron. I feel like he really believes the Necron should be the dominant people of the galaxy, and he takes that very seriously.
Yeah, I like that kind of mindset, or that word of archetype, and even the way you kind of described it in a different way. But yeah, archetype character. He's proud of the Necron. That's what he's all about.
Well, his name's also very short. As far as I know, I don't think he has too many major titles other than Stormlord and the ones that are immediate local to his dynasty. And if memory serves for Necrons, that means he's not a fucking poser.
What, the more titles you have, the more of a poser you are, or what?
Well, the short titles tend to be from either the War in Heaven or before, from Necron Society, a Necron tier society. So the fact that I don't think he has all that many titles means that even the Necrons know he's a badass.
Okay. Yeah. No, he's a super cool character. As was kind of mentioned, the big interesting plot point I found when going through the notes was what happens. We always talk about what happens now once the Silent King has returned. Imotekh was the big bad on the block for many of our human years. I'm thinking about in universe, it probably wasn't that long that he was awakened before the Silent King came back, but he was the big bad for a hot second. So it's an interesting dynamic. We'll talk about a lot about that at the end of the episode. But yeah, let's dive into it. This is my best Necron voice here for you. Order, unity, obedience. We taught the galaxy these things long ago, and we will do so again. And that is the Stormlord. Yep, you can join the Patreon to support my voice acting. I will also be doing that alongside my reading. So, yeah. Imotekh, revered as Imotekh the Stormlord, or simply the Stormlord, stands as the indomitable Phaeron of the Sautekh Dynasty, a being whose power and accomplishments place him among the most formidable Necron overlords to stalk the galaxy in the 41st millennium. From his Iron Throne, Imotekh commands a vast and relentless Necron Empire, encompassing 82 worlds. His conquests are a testament to his unparalleled strategic brilliance and unyielding pride, traits that have forged his legends in the fires of countless campaigns. With methodical precision, he has orchestrated devastating wars that have swept across entire sectors, systematically dismantling the resistance of the galaxy's lesser sentient races to expand the reach of his eternal dynasty. Yeah, right off the bat, he's put in this category of he has a huge empire, really. 82 worlds, that has to be bigger than the Tau Empire. Have you guys ever looked at the map of the Necron and the actual territory layout and seen how big his dynasty actually is?
Mm-hmm.
This is where your Tau fanboys tell you that it's not about what you do with it. No, wait, it is about what you do with it. It's not the size that counts.
It's about how much of the galaxy have you reclaimed because of all these little primitive races that are on your collective lawn. Now get the fuck off of it.
No, you can stay on it. You just gotta worship. I think that's the good. Yeah.
You got a problem when the guy's lawnmower. Oh, sorry. Oh, you got a problem when the guy's lawnmower starts glowing green.
Cool.
For
so let's get into his history of the guy. Who is he? How did he came to be? Why is he so prominent?
Oh, well, you can't really talk about the Necrons without them going old man, shaking their staff at you, telling them about where you came from, why you don't know how to fold laundry, but they do.
Back in my day, we used to fight real orcs, quarks. Yeah.
Back in my day, they were tougher. For 60 million standard years, Nemesor Imotekh slumbered through the Great Sleep, only to awaken to a fractured and chaotic tomb world. Mandragora, the Sautekh Dynasty's crown world, had weathered the passage of eons, largely intact, but succumbed to the poison of unchecked ambition. During hibernation, the ruling Phaeron of Mandragora perished, leaving the dynasty leaderless. Once the immediate alien threats were subdued, the nobles turned on one another, each vying for the vacant throne. For a Terran decade, civil war raged across the crown world, neither side able to secure dominance. In their lust for power, the rival factions even halted the revivification of high-ranking nobles, fearing the awakening of more competitors. Had this turmoil persisted, Mandragora might have been reduced to ruins before Imotekh could ever rise. I got to already derail this literally second paragraph in because everything about that is absolutely nuts from like an internal Necron society thing. If any of you guys want to comment on that.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Like you don't just turn off the revival processes. You don't dethrone their nobility. It's kind of like their society is very stratified. There's not much mobility there. So the fact that, don't get me wrong, it's not that they won't fight each other, because it was one of the things that they had issues with as Necron tier, but maybe it's the absence of those command protocols that are really doing it. That's nuts to me.
Yeah. They actually break into a civil war. Yeah. They usually have such like a...
I mean, that's kind of the thing with the Necrons is like, it's almost a mirror to the Imperium where that like, as busted as their technology is, like one of their biggest downfalls is like themselves because there's so much infighting, especially between other dynasties.
Yeah,
so
like their core systems trying to
exactly
outplay each other.
So like I definitely see this as like a mirror to the Imperium, since we're all seeing this from an Imperial perspective, but since it came before, it was kind of like they did it first. So, but
yeah, they seem like very, kind of status driven. Yeah, that's just like a motivation that drives a lot of them, which is, odd for artificial intelligence of some kind, but
Yeah. No, for more on that, it was fortune or it was cunning that intervened when one ambitious pretender sought to awaken the legendary general and secure his loyalty, believing that Imotech's strategic prowess in this massive internal civil war would guarantee victory. Yet, upon rising, Imotekh found himself enraged and disgusted by the lawless state of his realm. Recognizing that only swift and decisive action could salvage Mandragora, he refused allegiance to either side, instead assembling an army of his own, crushing the warring factions, and seizing the throne of Mandragora as its rightful Phaeron. Under his rule, infighting within the Sautekh Dynasty was declared an intolerable waste of resources and utterly forbidden. While this decree met resistance at first, Imotech's ruthlessness swiftly silenced dissent. Those who dared to defy his authority served as stark terminal examples of the futility of rebellion. Hey, look, it's Grim. How did you get in my basement?
Yeah, Grim in the chat says, would you really call them AI though? They were human once. Well, they weren't really human either, but back to the basement with you now, I guess.
Well, they're supposed to, the nobility at least, are supposed to have complex enough computers, cogitators, chips in their heads to at least simulate their personality. But it's like, it comes back to, like, to a certain degree, like Necron customs are hard-coded into their minds. They're not really supposed to be able to color outside the lines because certain aspects of their programming are more hard-coded than others, but I could be wrong about that. It makes me wonder how far that would go, because if they can go that far, it makes you wonder if you can restore their personalities, souls.
Yeah, and that's even the Silent King's whole kind of concept, is he's trying to get that to happen. So there definitely are even Necron who think that's possible.
With Mandragora restored to unity, Imotekh turned his focus outward. His unmatched strategic genius led to a series of swift military victories against nearby worlds, solidifying his dominance and rendering his rule unassailable. Within the Sautekh Dynasty, only the renowned Nemesaur Zandrik of Kidrim could claim comparable fame. Yet Zandrik's unwavering loyalty and fractured mind ensured that he posed no threat to the Stormlord's reign. Through relentless determination and supreme mastery of technology, Imotekh forged an unshakable empire, transforming chaos into order and ensuring the Sautekh Dynasty would ascend under his immortal rule. And yeah, that how Zandrik's mind being a wild card was just as much of a wild card as which side he would take. Like, because it makes you wonder if they did too good of a job in the technology of copying those personalities over, or even though this nobility are supposed to have the better brain computers, you have a very flesh and blood style of chaotic everything. Not like chaotic, but like there's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a certain roll of the dice with Necron.
Yeah, like you could come past the other side and just be all scrambled up, or not. Yeah.
I mean, that's also not to say too is
Um,
these guys have been asleep for 60 million years. Like, I can barely comprehend like a human lifespan of like 70 to 80 years, let alone just taking a 60 million year nap. And
Yeah.
then Lord knows what you might find or wake up to on the other side.
Yeah. We don't know either. Like, how long were they awake for as Necron during the War in Heaven? You know, it's such like an ageless time that they could have been like that for millions of years. And it's kind of like, yeah, going back to the fighting of the court and whatever. Like that's a long time. That like if you're at the bottom of that pile, you're on the bottom of that pile for a long time. That sucks. So it just creates that competition to try to rise. And yeah, very cool.
So let's talk about some notable campaigns that Imotekh has served in. Oh, and I actually stepped away for like a half second to. Unfortunately, I don't have the 10th edition codex, but I do have the 9th edition codex on me.
Oh,
And
nice.
I pulled up the galaxy map. I don't know if the chat can see this, but no.
Your fancy Necron abominable intelligence is messing with it. Won't let you use it.
It doesn't.
Mind check with curbs.
Location. It doesn't want me to show the true location of the Sautekh Dynasty, but there's like a massive chunk on the eastern part of the galaxy that is just the Sautekh Dynasty, and the only other one that kind of rivals it in size is the Charn. Hold on, I gotta go back to that page. The Charnavok Dynasty is like
Okay.
close to it in size, so.
Interesting. I haven't heard of that one before, but cool.
It's one of those very little spoken about ones.
Okay.
But anyways, so.
You see on tabletop too how prominent they are. Like we've named a couple models that actually exist on tabletop. Like obviously Imotekh exists. Xandric also exists, and I think Xandric has a bodyguard that exists as well, I believe, for a model. And then there's one other a cryptic that we'll eventually talk to as well. So even on tabletop, they got a lot of name characters going on for this one dynasty.
Unfortunately, if you go back to the GW website, unless they brought it back up, I don't think Xandric or his bodyguard, which is Oberon, Vargard Oberon showed up. I don't think they're showing up anymore. But Imotekh got a model update, and so did Orican, the Diviner. And they look pretty sick. So
yeah, if ever there's a model to stay true to its original like design, I was looking at the side by side today of the old and the new, and it's basically the exact same except just taller and a little crisper detail. But you know, he was good in the first place. So
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly, man. He looks super cool. I see a bunch of people model all the lightning kind of arcing off him. But we'll get to why that will happen later on.
If anybody goes on Instagram, El Miniaturista is fantastic with lightning effects and OSL, and he's just like a master class in just like how do you do that to your minis? It's fantastic. So give him a look whenever you're done listening to us. So, all right, some notable campaigns. 781 M41. After long years of preparation, Imotekh the Stormlord assumes control on the crown world of Mandragora and begins his conquest of the galaxy. As you do. 798 M41. The Siege of Salmanor. The Siege of Salmanor was a military campaign fought by the Azuriani of Craftworld Imotekh in 798 M41 against the Necrons of the newly emergent Sautekh Dynasty on the tomb world of Salmanor. The Sautekh Phaeron, Imotekh the Stormlord, played on the overconfidence of the Eldar Farseer Eldorath Starbane to lead the Eldar war host he commanded into a trap deep within the Necron stasis tomb on Salmanor that saw the entire Eldar force exterminated. Good job on Imotekh. That's a few thousand less Eldar we have to worry about. As a reminder of the humiliating defeat, Imotekh amputated Starbane's right hand, but allowed the Farseer to live so that he could take the news of his defeat back to Imotekh. The Seer Council of Imotekh promptly began planning for a major assault on the heart of the Sautekh Dynasty in response. So right out the gate, Imotekh just not completely destroys, but royally fucks up a craft world, and then proceeds to humiliate their Farseer. Pretty base. Pretty base.
Yeah. Yeah. They're ancient enemies, so anytime that can happen, yeah.
Well, you know the guy's a badass when the very first thing he does is literally kick the ass of the telepath that can see the future and the horse he rode in on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 910 M41. Imotech's campaigns are halted briefly by the Imperium's resolute defense of the Forge World Hypnoth. The Imperial Guard and Space Marine reinforcements flood into the battle zone, and though they cannot achieve a lasting victory, they succeed in tying down the Necron assault for several months. Encouraged by the prophecies of the Astromancer, Oric, and the Diviner, Imotekh finally breaks the stalemate by launching a series of attacks on Hypnoth supply worlds of Praetus, Zeta, and Nyx. The first two raids performed entirely as expected, with the worlds laid to waste and their vital supplies destroyed or claimed by Sautekh forces. However, an unforeseen Tyranid infestation on Nyx wreaks havoc among the Necron forces and threatens to completely derail Imotech's entire campaign. Nevertheless, Imotekh rises to the challenge, weaving a strategy that manipulates the Tyranid swarm into venting its fury on the remaining Imperial defenders. With both sides thus distracted, Imotekh is able to extricate his remaining forces. 911 M41. Sautekh Cryptechs succeed in introducing a mechanophage into the defense systems of the Forge World Hypnoth, reducing its formidably armed bastions to helpless ferrocrete shells. Despite a valorous defense by the Flesh Terrors and Iron Hand Space Marines, Hypnoth is conquered by the Necrons within days.
So the Necrons just bring the hate when they wake up, eh?
Yeah, man.
Wakes up, fucks up Craft World, fucks up Imperial World, does not elaborate, leaves.
He's building quite the record for himself of wins too, and we're now 4-0. Wherever he shows up, he just dominates.
Absolutely. All right, let's continue on his warpath here. So at 9:30 M41, Battle of Schrödinger 7. The forces of the infamous Necron overlord Imotekh the Stormlord, Phaeron of the powerful Sautekh Dynasty, descended upon the frozen plains of the imperial ice world of Schrödinger 7. The Necrons drove the local defenders to the shelter of the labyrinthian cryonite mines, but were unable to prevent the planet's astropathic choir from dispatching a distress hymn. A counterattack swiftly arrived in the form of Black Templar strike force under the command of Marshal Helbrecht. Imotekh was not caught by surprise so easily, and had already shifted his undying Necron armies into a formidable defensive configuration. Helbrecht led the assault, intending as a crippling alpha strike, but was instead blunted by a series of impeccably planned Necron ambushes on the Space Marines' drop pod and Thunderhawk drop zones. As the frozen caverns echoed to the roar of explosions, scores of Black Templars and Necrons alike were hurled into rivers of molten cryonite. Eventually, Imotekh and Helbrecht met in single combat atop the stalactite-heavy span of an ice bridge. In the battle that followed, Helbrecht, driven by zeal and hatred of the Xenos, dealt Imotekh a dozen ruinous blows. But each time the Phaeron's living necrodermis was able to quickly repair in a matter of seconds. Despite being the better swordsman, Helbrecht failed to land a truly crippling blow on his opponent, and as the duel drew on, the Marshal finally collapsed under the assault of the Necron Overlord, blood flowing from a score of serious wounds. However, instead of finishing off his opponent, Imotekh brought his war scythe down and merely severed Helbrecht's right hand to remind the Marshal of his much-deserved defeat. Helbrecht roared in fury and pain as Imotekh pitched him off the ice bridge to the frigid cavern floor far below. The surviving Black Templars quickly rallied to their fallen Marshal's side and made a fighting retreat, leaving Schrodinger's Seven in the Stormlord's hands. Following this humiliating defeat, Helbrecht swore an oath of vengeance against the Necrons in general and Imotekh in particular, vowing that the next time they meet, only one would leave the battlefield alive. It is kind of interesting, like he's really making sure that he doesn't just defeat his enemy, but like humiliates him and actually leaves him like alive.
Yeah, it takes the hand.
Yeah, just so that everyone else can see his failure, you know.
Some people might. Sorry. Some people might do some journaling to remember something. Some people might give a gift, or no, I'll just take your hand and walk away with it. Something for you to remember me by.
I like too how, oftentimes we get these massive hero characters. Like Helbrecht is a massive hero character, and they fight each other, and then neither one walks away really truly messed up. But I like how they did this one. Like it wasn't they tactically retreated. There's more like it made sense to who Imotekh is. He's trying to build his renown, and he's also from the Necron courts and is honorable and kind of can respect that hierarchy.
Yeah, he's not just like trying to win, he's trying to send a message, So.
Yeah, like if Helbrecht was just a standard sword brethren from the Black Templar, he would have died. It was because of who Helbrecht was as the chapter master or the High Marshal, that he got to live. So very cool. But we'll chalk up another win for Helbrecht.
I got a conspiracy.
Yeah.
The Iron Hands didn't actually exist until Helbrecht made it onto the scene. And so all of them have that significant characteristic where each of them one by one tried to take on this major Necron character and then came back and then they became Iron Hands because all of them before were weak Ultramarines. You see, it's a much better characteristic than any...
That is the craziest conspiracy I've ever heard.
Don't get me wrong, I know it's wrong, but...
I know it's wrong, but I'm saying it.
I approve. So quick question for Mark. What would be a good hero hammer clash for you, other than this being an example of one that works pretty well? But I know the big complaint for a lot of people is just like big name heroes bump heads, but then nothing really happens because they can't die. Otherwise, you won't be able to use them in a tournament anymore. So what would be another good example for you of something of a situation that might work?
I would start off by saying the galaxy is just so big and you can just make a character for them to fight. There's just no reason in the first place for big bads to ever fight each other in such a big galaxy. And then they find each other in the field battle, just whatever. But I think a good way to do it is the classic kind of building falls on somebody and they kind of get abandoned. They have done that before, like with Gavriel Loken. Sure, maybe they think they killed him, but they didn't. Or I don't know. It just seems like one too many times with the Space Marines, we got that the two big characters fought, and then one gets mortally wounded, and then they cross the Rubicon. So that was the other thing. I didn't really read too much about Helbrecht if he crossed the Rubicon right during this period, but I guess he wouldn't. He wasn't that messed up. Hard to say. Do you know? When did Helbrecht cross the Rubicon? Google always knows everything, I'm sure.
If none of us lore masters have the answer, Google does.
Yeah.
But I feel like that'd be really recent given how Primaris is. It's definitely like MM41 proper. But
yeah.
And while we're waiting, it's worth mentioning that the Imperial calendar that we use doesn't, if memory serve, operate by the same cycle of calendar we're used to. The years are longer because space travel takes a significantly longer time than travel just going around on one planet. So the years really do make a difference.
Yeah.
Grimaldus makes an interesting point. Angron versus Gazcool, and Angron can still come back.
Yeah, and the Primarchs are nice, the demon ones, because you can banish them, and then they can, come back. That is a nice feature of them.
All right, so shall we get into the fall of the inevitable conqueror? Marshal Halbrecht would get a chance at fulfilling his oath of vengeance after the events on Schrödinger 7, when his crusade fleet detected Necron activity around the Sautekh Dynasty's core world of Davitas in 985 M41. Moving swiftly to intercept, Halbrecht rejoiced when their quarry was identified as the inevitable conqueror, Imotech's Cairn-class tomb ship and the Sautekh flagship. Moving in with all haste, the Black Templars' battle barge Sigismund managed to land a crippling broadside blow on the inevitable conqueror's propulsive array, stranding it in place. Intending to get his revenge on his opponent personally, Halbrecht ordered an immediate teleport and boarding torpedo assault upon the Necron tomb ship. Within minutes, the decks of the inevitable conqueror were swarming with vengeful Black Templar Astartes. Alas, Halbrecht would not even get the satisfaction of seeing his opponent. While Imotech's pride urged him to fight, logic won out, and the Stormlord teleported himself and many of his most valuable assets away from his flagship to his unengaged escort ships. The Necrons immediately accelerated away from the fighting and made their escape. Fuming with impotent rage, Halbrecht could only gain a meager measure of satisfaction from ensuring the total destruction of the inevitable conqueror by personally setting his foe's beloved flagship on a collision course with the closest star and blasting it to smithereens, those other Necron spacecraft too slow to flee. The frustrated Halbrecht reaffirmed his oath of vengeance, swearing once again that he would see Imotekh dead once and for all. Those Black Templars, with some familiarity and with the undying Necron's fear that their marshal has bitten off more than he can chew. While Halbrecht is certainly capable of besting the Necron Phaeron in single combat, preventing the undying mechanical fiend from teleporting to safety and destroying Imotekh outright may prove to be an impossible feat for a single chapter of Space Marines, no matter their zeal. 988.
Maybe if he tried using maybe if they tried blasting him with plasma instead of just chopping him with the power sword over and over. They need to bring in
that's not as satisfying though.
They need tank support.
That's not a Black Templar thing, you know it.
Come on. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, no, it has to beat him in a duel. That's the only way it counts.
You could make it interesting that the Black Templar is about to win, but it only gets a successful. What's Khorne's number again? Is it 8?
8.
Every 8th strike, he has the chance to make it land, but he feels like the Cornish influence on the corner of his mind, and it's the only way he can win. That I wouldn't mind seeing just to make it interesting, because I don't really think we see too many Black Templars getting tempted by chaos.
Interesting.
You're full of crazy conspiracies tonight, eh?
Or
did you just suggest that High Marshal Helbridge fall to chaos? How the?
If you're great in 40k, you get noticed by the chaotic pantheon and the greater demons. He's definitely on their radar. Just saying.
Yeah.
Fair. But to add to Mark's comment about bringing in some tank support, get those fake Iron Hands that are actually weak Ultramarines that Nemo suggested, and bring in a waves of repulsors and whatnot.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Wow. Tactics 101, brought to you by Gerald and Nemo.
I'm here to make the podcast more unhinged. That's the only reason why I'm here.
All right, the Battle of Veloth 4. Logan Grimnar, majestic atop his chariot, Stormrider, leads his great company in a charge that finally breaks the Necron's phalanxes of Imotekh the Stormlord on Veloth 4. Though a great victory over the Necrons, it is a hollow one for the Great Wolf, as the hunt that brought him to Veloth 4 was intended to locate Trazyn the Infinite to deliver retribution for an attack.
Cool. I think maybe I didn't finish writing that little bit of the notes, to be honest with you. You know what? Sometimes that happens. We could take this away, though. He fights a couple big bads in the course of his history. He's not around very long. Like, his first kind of appearance was 781, and then that one was 988. So he's only been around for like 200 years. But he's fought a lot of big people, big name people like Logan Grimnar.
You know, that honestly kind of surprises me, because he had enough autonomy as a Robo Boy to rebel in a way that he saw fit as soon as he woke up. The fact that we didn't see him until now either meant that he got out of his crypto sleep a couple times and was really damn quiet about it, or we really didn't see him in the universe till now.
Yeah. We'll go to his ranks and titles. He does have a couple. And one I'm not sure if he still has. We'll figure that out when we read it, the Nemesis title. But Imotekh the Stormlord, as the supreme leader of the Sautekh Dynasty, holds numerous ranks and titles that reflect his unmatched authority, strategic genius, and fearsome reputation. Chief among these is the title of Phaeron of the Sautekh Dynasty, a rank that places him at the pinnacle of power within the largest and most military dominant of all Necron dynasties. These ranks and titles are not merely ceremonial, they're a testament to the dominance as a ruler, strategist, and a symbol of the Necron's race relentless march towards reclaiming the galaxy. So his first title is the Stormlord. Imotekh is called the Stormlord due to his unparalleled mastery over warfare, strategy, and the destructive forces of nature he wields as a weapon of war. This title is both a testament to his tactical brilliance, and a reflection of the literal storms he commands to sow terror and chaos among his enemies. His ability to manipulate the battlefield extends beyond conventional means, making him force of nature incarnate. Key reasons for this epithet include, pretty cool. Like we were kind of mentioning, he's always blasting off lightning and stuff. He's got some cool devices that can do this kind of stuff. Imotech's campaigns are swift and decisive and overwhelming, mirroring the sudden, devastating impact of a storm. His military genius ensures his force strike with precision, leaving no chance for his enemies to regroup or retaliate. This relentless and calculated destruction evokes the imagery of a storm, sweeping across the battlefield, obliterating all in its path. Imotech's armies often employ storm simulating technologies to dominate battlefields. Utilizing the technological prowess of the Necrons, Imotekh unleashes massive electrical storms that bombard his enemies with crackling lightning and disrupt their communications. These manufactured tempests are as destructive as they are demoralizing, ensuring total battlefield control. Like a storm on the horizon, Imotech's approach is both inevitable and terrifying. His campaigns are marked by careful planning and relentless execution, ensuring his enemies are crushed under the sheer weight of his strategy. His ability to protect and counter his opponents' moves reinforces the perception that the resistance against him is futile, as fighting with the winds of a hurricane. Yeah, that's some fun imagery, and that's cool. It would be quite the storm, the combination of flashing lightning and like just the blinks along with the eerie glow of the Necron green of this dynasty. Oh yeah.
Whenever I encounter Necrons in the lore, I try to get a read on their mental state, to see if maybe I can parse out ahead of before it happens if they're going to fall the destroyer virus, the flare virus, if maybe they're going to start showing any aberrations in their behavior that'll get them demoted or booted out of their dynasty or anything like that. And despite being Skelly Boy, this guy understands the flesh and blood incredibly well, despite no longer having any of his own. Like, he has that grip. He has that grip on psychological warfare, and you really got to understand fear yourself to know it's scary, and he does it well.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Just imagine him using a little shard of the Nightbringer too. That'd be fun. Then you have the Death Grim Reaper kind of floating around in the lightning storm with glowing green energy.
You're giving me inspiration for my Nightbringer Kit Bash.
Oh, tell me more.
I'll tell you more near the end of the episode.
Imotekh leads the Sautekh Dynasty, the most powerful and expansive dynasty. The Stormlord, the title reflects his rule over a dynasty whose armies are as unstoppable and awe-inspiring as the storms he conjures. His leadership embodies the cold, calculated power of the storm unleashed, cementing his place as one of the most feared and respected figures among the Necron. In essence, Imotekh's title, the Stormlord, is not merely honorific, it is a symbol of his relentless force, calculated destruction, and terrifying inevitability of his campaigns. Under his command, the storm is not just a metaphor, but a reality for those who dare stand in his way. Yeah, like, he has a record of coming back and he just wins campaign after campaign. And even when he loses, the enemy's like, Helbridge is like, well, I can't kill this guy anyways. Like, and then Imotekh just comes back and keeps winning and winning. There's just no stopping it.
I like his I like that mentality earlier of like, I want to go back and finish the job on this stupid ass Space Marine, but logic dictates I need to go back and help out my legions. So, okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah. See ya.
He doesn't need to pretend to be infinite. He's not a save scummer like Orican. He just turns up, kicks ass, and leaves. Like, how can you not like that?
Mhm.
I feel like he wouldn't be like a good Phaeron if he just gave himself to every whim or hurt of his ego to, go after whoever offended him,
Yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't last very long in the Necron court if you kind of had that mentality where, everything's an offense.
Well, the last time someone tried to rise up against him, or at least went against his wishes, he took over the entire damn court. It's impressive.
That'll happen.
Oh, since we're on the topic of Phaerons, Phaerons are normally especially powerful Necron overlords, often the ruler of entire Necron dynasties. They are the true rulers of the Necron species. A Necron dynasty can include vast numbers of tomb worlds, while a Necron overlord has risen to the rank of Phaeron. Let me redo that. A Necron dynasty can include vast numbers of tomb worlds, while the overlord, who has risen to the rank of Phaeron, rules over an entire sector of tomb worlds to command a court of lesser overlords to do their bidding. As such, certain usually powerful or large dynasties that spread across more than one sector can have multiple Phaerons, who can be subordinate to a more powerful ruling Phaeron, as in the Sautekh Dynasty. Perhaps the most well-known and accomplished Phaeron in the 41st millennium is Imotekh the Stormlord, who rules over the 80 tomb worlds that comprise the empire of the Sautekh Dynasty. In truth, a Phaeron has such force of will that they can infuse their nearby minions with a portion of their own burning determination to restore the Necron race to rulership over the entire galaxy, creating an unstoppable core of resistance to any enemy. That's kind of interesting, because that speaks to me of the idea of morale in flesh and blood armies. And here I am saying it for a third or fourth time. They're scaly boys. Why would they have morale?
Well, I feel like that's more like the minions are filled with a portion of their own burning, or of his own burning determination. I feel like that's just like his will directs them. So if like his will wasn't so strong, they wouldn't be doing what they wouldn't be who they are, you know, if they didn't have that will behind it. I see it kind of more of that way. Like without that directing robot, the robots aren't going nowhere.
I think you mentioned it in a much older Lorehammer episode, Mark. Like if one dynasty overtakes another, it falls to the will of the Phaeron that takes over. That's where any warriors that get absorbed into the new dynasty, that's where they take on, like, I guess, all the features of the dynasty that has taken them over. Kind of like almost like a command protocol type of thing.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Like some type of built-in command protocol. Maybe even the Silent King built that in when he was kind of doing all the protocols and stuff. It's kind of just a way for the Necron to still kind of have some semblance of independence or whatever. You know, like you could separate, get your command codes back for your people, and yeah.
Because the one thing I've noticed is that when the Necrons act the most outside the mold of what you'd expect from an ancient robot is when they start to break the most, to miss flesh so much that you drape it over your shoulders, to like have so much temp for everything living. You start grafting new limbs, really, really nice as far as the tabletop is concerned. But it's like, and then you have this, and it makes me wonder if that is a step towards stability or the viruses that plague them. It's like they went from being a race that was afflicted by disgusting amounts of solar radiation, and now they have sicknesses again, but they're not of the flesh. It's like the deceiver goes, and it's like, here's your deal with the devil, and then the monkey paw closed, and now you have the viruses that we know about going and doing things. You have abilities like this where it makes me wonder how soulless they really are, if they really munch the whole soul away in biotransference. I should actually.
Yeah, here's an interesting thought. Like, we do know there are objects that can contain souls. Obviously, Eldar have spirit stones. There are many types of things like that. So yeah, who's to say that some part of the necrodermis itself, it has many almost magical abilities. You know, maybe it can hold on to just that little tiny timbit of it. You know, of that flicker of independence, flicker of a soul. Flicker of thought outside of programming.
They used necrodermis to capture the star gods before biotransference happened, or at least it was part of the construct that gave the Titan the shell to. It's like I'm on the conspiracy go today.
This one actually I like. The first two were like laughable, but this one I kind of like. Yeah, you're right, because yeah, they totally put the star gods kind of essence, and you know, you would imagine its essence also contains its soul, and they put that in the necrodermis, and yeah, they were still able to act and do things and even trick the Necron and all that kind of stuff. So very interesting to kind of think, yeah, I've never thought of that maybe there actually is a tiny piece of their soul still in that necrodermis, able to hold on.
Now let me pose this then. Because of the biotransference, technically their souls were eaten by the Satan, and then, like what Nemo said at the beginning of this episode, that whatever remains was like basically what amounts to like an AI simulation of their personality, at least for the royalty in the Necron court. But since the Satan are still around, albeit imprisoned, and it's almost impossible to actually destroy one, what's to say they can't maybe somehow extract what was their soul from the Satan that had eaten them?
I see, like go back into the Satan and take their souls back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that'd be like quite the like tree of Satans, where it's like, okay, this Satan sharded all these ways. I think he ate it over here, and you try to find the fucking shard of where your soul is. Yikes.
Well, the Catan are dicks. And I hope most of us can agree on that. And it's like, it wouldn't surprise me if they, like, there wasn't exactly a shortage of Necron souls, millions of them, billions of them, going into the furnace. What if they just left deliberately a fragment, or it's enough to taunt them? like just full ghosting
yeah.
shell.
Well, like I almost even think like, we'll use a shitty analogy of drinking a can of pop and you drink it back. The Satana drinking those sweet Necron souls, and then they throw the can away, but there's still a couple drops left in that can that then becomes like, the necrodermis or whatever, or it can be put in the necrodermis, I mean. But not the best analogy I've ever had, but
I like it, Mark.
thanks, Jordan. Yeah, that's a fun thought. Really, I do like that. Like, I didn't think that the Silent King could kind of get the souls back, but now I'm kind of rethinking that whole thing. Like, where did their souls actually go? Because they're not like devoured like the warp in the warp, where this like. Do the Satan need energy in the same way? So were they devoured, or were they more like like something they just consumed and not destroyed? Very interesting.
For the psychic bullshit, we know that emotions are a source of energy into themselves. So if they deliberately kept the souls intact inside the contained zone being, so the souls were basically stored like the pages of a book, and they'd flip through the pages and pretty much re-experience those experiences while keeping them intact and just skimming off the revelry. For at least most of the souls, there would be theoretically something to go get, but there's absolutely no basis for that, for the record.
Well, I listened to a podcast the other day about black holes, and they were talking about how black holes are one of the few things that they know of, probably the only thing they know of, that like actually destroys information. Like, even if you burn something, those molecules still exist. They just were transformed into energy that got released or transformed into like, little. But if you gathered all that energy, if you had the technology like Necron do to gather all that energy, grab all the scraps and put it all back together, you could make whatever you burnt again. So, you would maybe be able to, with Necron technology, bust open that Satan and free your souls somehow, unlock like, okay, it consumed it here, turned it into energy. Like, you might be able to trace it back like a fucking line of Bitcoin or whatever.
Oh, I should probably, unless you guys got a little extra throw in here, I should probably finish reading this section, eh?
No, I like that. Yeah, carry on.
Another thing to mention about, because we were talking about the Necron titles, there's also the title of Nemesaur, which is the higher ranking military title employed by them. It's comparable to the rank of admiral or general for the imperial equivalent. The title can be given to any member of the still self-aware Necron nobility by either the Phaeron or Phaerak, that's the female equivalent of the term Phaeron. One of them can bestow that rank of Nemesaur general to anyone who just has their mind intact enough, or they can be more or less trusted to be a general. Because warriors, that emotional, creative, like a full true mind, Yeah. And there might also be more than one Nemesaur. That's one last note to give.
Yeah.
If you want to take it away, Gerald, or unless you guys got a comment.
Yeah, I go for it, Gerald.
Oh no, I didn't have anything. But yeah, that's kind of okay. I actually do have a comment. I lied. I'm a filthy liar. In the
Wash your mouth out.
There you go.
Nice, yeah.
So I think it's Battlefleet Gothic. I never actually played it myself, but I saw a few cutscenes from the Necron campaign. I think one of the main things about it is like the Phaeron is sending his Nemesaur against another Nemesaur from his dynasty to basically have them fight against each other, so that way his rule isn't questioned or his rule is not in jeopardy, because all your main rivals, they're too busy fighting each other. So that's an interesting point with the an interesting point about there being multiple Nemesaurs that Nemo had made.
Well, if they're not going to screw with each other, they're going to screw with the elves, or they're going to screw with the human that looks significant enough to get a rise out of it. So I see it.
Yep. And so speaking of all these wacky politics and whatnot, Imotekh definitely has a personality. I think we can kind of agree on that. So personality.
Yeah, like you'd almost define like a personality, like what do you do in situations? And we know what he does. He will maim a Space Marine commander and leave. That's kind of what he likes to do, embarrass somebody and leave.
Wakes up, fucks shit up, refuses to elaborate, leaves.
Yep.
Like a boss. Imotekh the Stormlord is an unparalleled grand strategist, a master of warfare whose genius spans not only across battlefields but entire star systems and sectors. His campaigns are intricate webs of deception, meticulously planned and executed with precision that transcends mortal comprehension. Every assault, whether a full-scale invasion or a seemingly minor raid, is a calculated maneuver designed to disorient, misdirect, and dismantle his foes. To the untrained eye, it is impossible to determine if a strike is the main thrust of his strategy or a feint meant to bleed reinforcements from a battle yet to come. Every move in Imotekh's campaign is crafted to force his enemies into impossible choices. The foe must either sacrifice their forces in futile defense or commit reinforcements into traps already laid. Imotekh's strategies are not static but living constructs, evolving through contingencies and counter strategies that activate with machine-like precision when conditions are met. His plans are layers upon layers of probabilistic calculation, logic, and an unnerving understanding of his enemy's psyche. To outsiders, his methods appear almost mystical. How else could one so perfectly anticipate the unseen? Yet no sorcery guides the Stormlord, only the relentless application of intellect, probability, and strategic insight. Imotekh's brilliance is so absolute that to counter him, an enemy must abandon logic entirely, a feat few are capable of achieving. Among the galaxy's countless adversaries, only the anarchic orcs, whose chaotic nature defies reason, frustrate his plans. This disorder drives Imotekh to loathe the greenskins above all other life, for their unpredictable tactics rarely allow for the decisive and lasting victories he seeks. Yet Imotekh is unyielding in his mission. The orcs must be eradicated, for only through the annihilation of all lesser beings can the Necron ascendancy be restored. I find it kind of, one interesting point when we were talking about the Necrons getting their souls back and possibly trying to get their bodies back is I think Imotekh was one of the ones that doesn't want that to happen because he is so proud of his immortal body. Like, why would he want to go back into a mortal body that can die?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, him and we'll get more into it later about the return of the Silent King, and that's their kind of big tiff.
So do you think that's an emotional answer or a logical robot boy answer?
For wanting to keep his necrodermis body, you mean?
Yeah.
What's the emotion behind that? That's like, it's not quite greed, but
because that sounds like soul behavior.
I mean, I'd say a very big point of pride for him too. Like, I'm in an immortal necrodermis body. Here's this Space Marine that, yeah, he might take a few hits on me, but here I am regenerated from it. Why would I want to make myself lesser? So I could see very much like pride coming from that.
Sure.
So, and continuing on. As Phaeron of the Sautekh Dynasty, Imotekh commands vast resources, with the armies of countless tomb worlds at his disposal. Yet he understands that sheer military force alone cannot conquer the galaxy. Terror is a weapon as vital as his legions. His armies march under storm-darkened skies. Emerald lightning crackles across the heavens, obliterating all in its path. Those who survive the Maelstrom's fury emerge broken and demoralized, their panicked accounts spreading fear among their comrades. Some escapees are marked with blood-swarmed nanoscarabs, their tainted scent attracting ravenous flayed ones to sow further carnage. Despite his clinical precision and unyielding logic, Imotekh harbors a prideful need to display superiority over his rivals. High-ranking enemy commanders are often spared defeat only to live with the shame of their failure, marked by mutilation such as the loss of a limb. This hubris allows his enemies to study his methods, and among them, none have pursued him with as much determination as High Marshal Helbricht of the Black Templars. Though Helbricht has come close to victory, Imotekh remains undefeated, his domain expanding with every campaign.
Now, one thing about that, is that totally illogical though? Like, as just a tactic to like leave some of your enemies alive, to forewarn future enemies of what you're capable of, or even to just strike fear, like as a psyop.
For anyone except for this truly immortal being, yeah, probably. But for like, he's ageless, he's got the regenerating body, there's literally nothing you can do to destroy him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you want people to know that you are like that.
But then again,
Yeah,
it's
I
like
guess so.
that's a lot of thoroughness, leaving absolutely no survivors when you got a fight happening in the 41st millennium. Ship crews are absolutely massive. The ships themselves are so many kilometers long. When you have an Imperial force go out there, how often are you really going to see Astartes operating solo without any mortals following them, let's say an Imperial army presence, and then they have a navy following them, and then they have a supply train? It's like, that's a lot of individual people. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I don't have the technology. I'm not saying that they aren't patient. The Necrons are definitely patient enough to do whatever they like, but at what point would the immortal robot just sort of shrug and get on with its day?
It just kind of makes
Yeah.
me think of that quote from Pirates of the Caribbean. No survivors. Well, where do the stories come from then?
Yeah, I mean, it also would like just lead to his own legend across the galaxy too, just to leave some survivors. But anyways, should I do my attempt at a Necron voice there, Mark? Let's see
Yeah,
how
I think
mine,
let's see.
see how mine compares to yours.
The panel will judge you harshly, I'm sure, and me for that matter, but we'll get to it.
If it's good enough, I'll make a conspiracy theory over your voice.
Maybe I can add some. You have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 of your years. Wait, do I need my microphone in it?
Oh, yeah, that's better. That's the
Yeah.
spot.
And yet you have so little to account to show for your efforts. Such failure must be as depressing to bear as it is shameful to behold.
I don't know if it's supposed to be more menacing or more robot, but anyways, that's Imotekh, a quote from Imotekh Stormlord.
Yeah, that was not edited in post. That was Jordan just fucking around with a microphone. I've never seen such a feat
Yeah, and if you
before.
subscribe, you can be with us hanging out live while all this nonsense happens.
Yeah, I give
Yeah,
that a
well,
10 out of 10, honestly, for the sporadicness of it. Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really know where to go with it, but thanks. Okay. This prideful streak stands in stark contrast to his otherwise detached, analytical demeanor. Perhaps it is the result of stasis-induced engramic degradation. But whether Imotekh is a strategic genius driven by a warrior's ego or a warrior whose genius is an accident of fate is irrelevant. What matters is the relentless expansion of his empire, a testament to his immortality and ambition. In a mere 2 centuries, Imotekh has brought 80 tomb worlds under his iron command, while countless alien-held planets pay tribute to the Sautekh Dynasty. The number of civilizations he has obliterated is beyond measure. Though his realm is but a shadow of the Necron's ancient glory, it is a formidable achievement in the modern age, and one that has drawn the gaze of powerful rivals. On Macraig, chapter master Marnius Calgar monitors the northern borders of Ultramar, where reports of Necron incursions grow more frequent. The Farseers of Lyandon have foreseen a peril as grave as the Tyranid menace that once threatened their craft world. Even the Tau Empire, ever opportunistic, whisper of a dark power rising.
Yeah, we talked about it on the last episode, how really the only two galactic players are the Necron and the Tyranids. And, the Necron aren't fully united, but they could be. And everyone around is starting to get very nervous what's happening.
Yeah. You don't think the Imperium is a galactic player?
No, I meant like more Marinius Calgar and his like 500 worlds, which
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. It is inevitable that the Sautekh Dynasty will clash with these powers, and as Imotekh's empire grows, the storm clouds gather. Should he face multiple realms in concert, his unparalleled genius will face its ultimate test. Yet to underestimate the Stormlord is folly, for even in the face of impossible odds, Imotekh remains the immortal architect of annihilation, unyielding in his quest to see the galaxy cleansed of all lesser life.
Stupid lesser life.
Yeah. Gum on my shoe.
Did you already do biotransference, Jordan? Because you're doing it too damn well.
Maybe. Who's to say?
Let's dive into his war gear. The Necrodermis is his first big piece of war gear. It's who he is as a person. The Necrodermis, Imotekh the Stormlord's form, is forged from the imperishable living metal known as Necrodermis, a material that embodies the essence of Necron immortality. His Necrodermis surpasses even the remarkable standards of his kind, crafted with unrivaled precision and adorned with the symbols of supreme station. This self-repairing substance is a testament to the Necron supremacy, enabling Imotekh to recover from even the most catastrophic damage in moments, ensuring his presence on the battlefield remains unbroken and unyielding. The Staff of the Destroyer. It is a relic of unparalleled significance, a weapon as ancient as the Sautekh Dynasty itself. First wielded by the dynasty's founder, Zehet, this magnificent staff has passed through the hands of each of his successors, embodying both authority and annihilation. While its intricate design marks it as the symbol of Imotekh's exalted rank, its true power lies in its ability to unleash searing beams of pan-dimensional energy. So this will turn you something type of extra dimension perfect. I sometimes read so and never understand what that means, but it's a fun weapon. It will do something shitty to you for sure. These devastating blasts are capable of obliterating even the most resilient adversaries, though the potent demands of brief recharge, offering the fleeting respite to those who oppose the Stormlord. It's kind of cool. The one thing I'm really picking up on this episode is how the Stormlord, how Imotekh he's new on the scene relatively. Like he woke up and then he took over his dynasty. He wasn't from back in the ancient bloodline, and even this weapon, like it wasn't his weapon. He got this when he became the Phaeron. Like who knows what he was using before. The Gauntlet of Fire. It is a marvel of Necron engineering, an armored vambrace that channels crackling streams of emerald flame. Controlled by the mechadermal filaments, it offers the wielder precision that mirrors the movements of its own hand. Imotekh wields the gauntlet as both a ranged and melee weapon, capable of projecting torrents of viridin fire that consumes all in their path and ignites foes in close combat with precision strikes that leaves them ablaze. That's so fun. Just punches them and sets them on fire. This weapon exemplifies the Stormlord's capacity for relentless and calculated destruction. Fucking cool. He's got a phase shifter. A phase shifter is a masterpiece of interdimensional Necron technology. Cloaks its bearer in ethereal flicking haze that renders him impervious to attacks. By phasing in and out of existence across dimensions, this device ensures that even most devastating blows and projectiles pass harmlessly through Imotech's form. This defensive tool epitomizes the strategic brilliance of Necron science, frustrating enemies who must contend with an untouchable adversary. Yeah, like you definitely want to get that out there and let people know that, like, man, even when I hit him, he still was there.
This is like, I mean, it's actually sweet. It's a sweet idea or concept for, a piece of weaponry or armor. I guess it would more fit in it's a defensive tool. So, but is it also just like too much? Like it basically makes you invincible, more or less. Like, can you use this on tabletop? Does he have like a phase shifter?
Yeah,
Anything
and it
that you
just
could use?
it gives him like a invulnerable save of I think it was
Okay,
like
yeah.
4 up. So like, I get what you're saying where like, sometimes Necron tech is just so powerful. And you get that same vibe when you read the Tyrannid lore. Like, how do you really go against this guy? So if he shows up on the battlefield, in theory, he could just kill your entire army in the lore.
Yeah.
And I guess all you could say is thank the Emperor. You can only be in one planet at a time.
Yeah. I mean, I do like conceptually, I think it's like a cool idea, like the way the tech works. But it does seem like completely unfair to anyone going
Yeah.
against the guy.
That is the Necron way. Unfair if you fight them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
tabletop balance is a thing that exists, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Or fortunately, depending on who you are.
Yeah.
Well, if you're a custodian, you can make sure you'll always win, because that's exactly how the tabletop works.
So they don't even have to actually win the battle. If a custodian shows up, the Imperium just writes it off as a win anyways.
Imperial victory, I declare. Every time, all the time.
Imperial propaganda, more like it.
Up next, we'll talk about this word sounds sexual to me, and what do you guys weigh in? Phylactery. Do you think that's a sex organ sounding type device? Or just
So if you want to
Wait,
discuss the history of flax,
Oh, I was
Go
just
on.
gonna say it sounds like olfactory, but you go ahead, Nemo.
one's from fantasy, like things like Dungeons and Dragons, where they'll have a lich and it's where they keep stolen. You got to find it and break it so you can one last time. And then also with the Jewish religion, the little square hat they wear on their heads, little
Like
tiny
the
hat.
yarmulke?
No, this is something different. It's like a black cube on a strap. They
Oh.
put it on their heads.
Not sure.
One of the specific ones do, and what they do is they take a bunch of prayers, they write them out on paper.
I see. Oh yeah, I just googled a picture and now I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen that.
Yeah, like and it's if memory serves, they believe that it offers a certain level of protection, and it's like a psychic focus, 40k cent, but in the context of their religion, because within Judaism, there is a cult aspect of it where they believe some really interesting things, both inside of the sense of not just full but human psychology, and then next to that, there's a very genuinely thing going on there. I'll save the tangent, but
Yeah. Well, the phylactery is very similar to that little black box. It's a hidden in plain sight as a small scarab-like cylinder. The phylactery is a cornerstone of Necron resilience. This unassuming artifact houses legions of nanoscarabs, dormant until commanded or triggered by severe damage. Upon activation, these microscopic constructs swarm over Imotech's necrodermis, tirelessly mending even the most grievous wounds. The phylactery synergizes with the Necron ability to self-repair, ensuring that Stormlord can endure the triumph in even the direst of circumstances. And yeah, this is just another thing. It's like, okay, their necrodermis already heals, and then he's got this thing, and then he phase shifts out. Like, it's just unstoppable.
This is also a pretty good callback to the Tomb Kings from Warhammer Fantasy, which, if you know anything about Warhammer Fantasy, check out the Grimble podcast. But the Necrons are basically Tomb Kings in space because of the whole skeleton undead theme, and with the I guess the more recent now it's called Old World lore that came out. Most of the undead legions are kind of held together by a lich. Who also has this sort of phylactery thing, which is a very popular device used in fantasy, like what Nemo mentioned.
Cool. I like that one. It's not just like a made up word. Like it sounds like a fucking made up word, but very cool. Up next, he has the Sempiternal Weave. The Sempiternal Weave represents the pinnacle of Necron augmentation, reserved for the highest echelons of the hierarchy. This intricate lattice of phase-hardened amethyte and adamantium interlaces Imotech's necrodermis, reinforcing it to withstand assaults that would obliterate lesser beings. With the durability rivaling the fabled Terminator armor of the Adeptus Astartes, the Septennial Weave further solidifies Imotech's position as the nigh-invincible force on the battlefield. That's like a very fancy way to say he's wearing a cape made of metal, essentially. That's his fancy interlocking cape. The Blood Swarm Nanoscarabs. Among the deadliest of Imotech's tools, the Blood Swarm Nanoscarabs embody a perfect union of Necron ingenuity and strategic malice. These miniature canoptic scarabs swarm forth like mechanical tide, probing enemy armor and for weaknesses before consuming it with ferocious efficiency. Once the armor is compromised, the nanoscarabs burrow into the exposed flesh beneath, leaving their victims defenseless and writhing. Yet their work does not end there. These mechanical devourers spill blood in such quantities that the scent draws packs of flayed ones, who descend upon the battlefield to eliminate any remaining opposition. The Blood Swarm serves as both a weapon and terror and a harbinger of the Stormlord's inevitable victory. What a crazy little device he has. Like he can even command the uncommandable flayed ones to some degree. You know, once they arrive on the battlefield, who knows what's going to happen then, but at least he can get them there.
I like how in lore the flayed ones and like other outcasts are kind of treated as like something to be kind of sloughed away from, you know, like the main part of the dynasty. But it seems like Imotekh doesn't have that many compunctions about you at least using them, which
yeah,
I don't know. But
I get what you're saying. Yeah, they kind of push him aside, like it's kind of that pride thing where it's like that's the worst part of Necron. Other than for that, they're perfect, man. But those are like they're the flaws in the code.
Mm-hmm.
Rings the dinner bell with his scarabs for the flayed ones.
Shit. Yeah, it is an interesting device. I wonder, like, behind the scenes, why they chose to give him that kind of this very specific thing. I want, like, you know, the flayed ones are actually a unit on tabletop. I just wonder if they were trying to do some synergistic thing. When reading the lore, I didn't really get why he had them, but it always struck me as odd that he kind of has this device. Or maybe it's just a cool relic that he has, and that's just all there is to it, you know?
Well, Trazen likes his mind shackle scarabs, so it could just be like an Imotekh specific thing, like what you just mentioned.
Yeah, just because he likes it. Because why not?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Oh, all right. It's my turn.
Wait, hold on.
No?
Sorry, Nemo, before you go on. Okay. Let me add one more picture here to the terror picture that we've already created. So, you know, it's pitch black outside because I blew up your sun or whatever fucking nonsense. And all you see is the glowing green and the lightning strikes going. And the battlefield is just basically crackling fires, but quiet. You know, there's the odd screaming soldier. And all you hear is the mechanical rustling of flayed ones crunching on bones. Yeah, that adds to the terror element for sure. So maybe it's just another component of that terror where it's like now there's these fucking robot zombies consuming us and like, ooh.
Yeah, this guy understands psychological warfare fantastically well. He's got the storms, he's got the absolute lined up, almost British redcoat style phalanxes of immortal, slow, marching warriors blasting away with green beams that eat everything it touches. One falls, it vanishes, immediately replaced. It's like, I wouldn't want to fight him.
I would, yeah. No, I think if I ran into him, I would say, yo, I'm a great bootlicker. I'll keep your feet polished. You can even put your feet up on me when I'm not polishing. Yeah.
Fantastic thing there, Mike.
I'm useful, Imotekh. I'm useful.
Every edition or so, I think Black Library comes out with like a start reading anthology collection to kind of get people into it. So I didn't come into the hobby until like 4 or 5 years ago, like right when 9th edition was really going. So like my very first book was one of those anthologies, and the first major part of it was a novella called Nexus. And it was basically, it was Ultramarines versus Necron because that was the thing in 9th edition. But the way that they describe how the flayed ones are basically infiltrating a freaking guardsman bunker and then just picking off all the individual guardsmen, and they're like, it's basically like going through a dark hallway and you're flashing a light and then you just happen to see this zombie skeleton, metal zombie skeleton just eating at your fallen comrades. It's just,
oh my goodness, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just
and they
yeah.
And they didn't name any specific Necron characters, but the way to describe the green glow and everything, that was very much Sautekh Dynasty.
Cool. Yeah, horrifying, man. Why are you eating? You're a robot. It just adds to it all. Why?
He's already dead.
Yeah.
Yes, just to fuck with you.
Yeah.
Is it Necron voice time?
Yeah,
I think
okay,
it's
let's see.
You know, let's hear yours, yeah.
Let me tell you of my future. My hand will reach out into the stars, reshaping the galaxy into a place of order and unity. Under my reign, the kings of old shall live again, reborn to an age of power and glory, the like of which you can only imagine. I will rule every planet touched by the light of this star. Even in the darkness beyond, my name will be whispered with fear and respect.
And that's Phaeron Imotekh.
Yeah, that almost sounds too much like Marvel's what's their AI robot that they had to fight?
Ultron?
Ultron, yeah. Almost a little too benevolent there, almost too almost cheery, that voice. A little tone of hope to it. I don't like it.
How dare I? This is
Yeah.
40K. We gotta be grimdark, not mainstream.
Yeah.
superhero.
I want to be
Oh.
terrified. You know, I don't want to be enlightened. I want to be scared while I'm shining his boots. Like, oh fuck! This guy pissed off Imotekh real bad now.
Stop my arm.
For what it's worth, that was a very good AI sounding voice.
Yeah, the voice was
So-
great, just misaligned. I think, you know.
So too much neutral good, too much lawful good, a little more chaotic evil. Maybe next time, eh? Yeah.
Exactly. A little.
Lawful evil.
I appreciate these notes, guys. I will work on my synthetic evil man voice in the future. I'll definitely have opportunities.
Future RPG players will thank us.
So speaking of robots that don't really care if your flesh is melting because they're probably the ones making it happen, let's describe the Sautekh Dynasty. They're an indomitable force of 82 worlds, commanded from its crown world of Mandragora, situated on the eastern fringe. Before the ancient biotransference that forever transformed the Necron tier into the undying Necrons, the Sautekh Dynasty ranked as the third most powerful among its galactic dynasties. Through providence, more meticulous design, many of its tomb worlds endured the eons of the Great Leap unscathed, yet Mandragora itself descended into anarchy, its slumbering Phaeron reduced to a decayed shadow of authority. In their desperation, one such claimant awakened the legendary Nemesis Imotekh, seeking an advantage. But instead of serving his would-be master, Imotekh seized control of the Sautekh Dynasty, uniting its fractured domains and forging a relentless campaign of galactic conquest.
Man, that's quite the story, really, man. Like, this was only the third most powerful dynasty. And then, it wasn't like he took the worst dynasty and made it the best, but still to shift the ranking of Necron dynasties that much from third to first. Yeah, Imotekh really has something going on. Like, what made him so special after the biotransference? Like, yeah, he was just a Nemesis, so I guess you kind of keep your best tactical general. So then that's a pretty good conqueror, I suppose. But yeah, very cool.
But Nemesis aren't rare. They're not like what. There's something loose in this brain. Don't get me wrong. I'm here for it.
Yeah. But just say, everything he touches.
But like in terms of the story, though, like like we haven't referenced ancient Egypt yet, but let's reference ancient Egypt.
We got close. We referenced two kings, but yeah, let's go to Egypt.
There are every now and again, there's like a dynasty that arises that overthrows the previous dynasty, and it's sort of unexpected, right? And they kind of come out of nowhere, and they find some weakness in the status quo, and they're able to exploit that weakness, and they become the ruling dynasty. Sarah, right? So you have so you had. I do think there is some. I know, like when we look at it from like a very just like individual situation, it's like, oh, that doesn't make sense, but that happens all the time, historically.
Sure. Look at what's happening to the States right now. You get one person and the whole world.
You get God Emperor Trump and
gonna make the Necron Dynasty great again. We have the best technology. We have the best necrodermis.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning.
He's gonna build a wall and he's gonna make the orcs pay for
it. I'm gonna build a wall for our dynasty. It's gonna be so big, it's gonna cut off the Tyranids for entering our galaxy. They come here and they wreck our galaxy. They consume our resources.
We have the hive ships. They're the worst hive ship. He's a little hive ship man. He comes. We can't even have any extra specifications. He's the worst. It's the worst. Little hive ship man.
Yeah. Now that is the best fucking Imotekh voice we've done yet, I think. That one wins it. All the other quotes are fuck. That one wins.
Gosh.
What were we doing?
I think we are.
You're talking about the Sautekh Dynasty. Bunch of great, lovely people trying to make the Necrons great again. Come on now, get with the picture, get with the program.
They were sleeping for a long time, but now it's time for them to rise up and become great again.
All of our boys, they're still sleeping. They're like Sleepy Joe. They won't wake up. They won't get up. We gotta get them just doing something.
Sleepy Silent King. He wants to turn you soft and weak.
I highlighted
Emo, you're up.
Right there.
Oh, it's me. Sorry, my bad. I forgot it was even mine. All right.
That's how good that voice was. It just completely rattled your whole world.
Yeah, it's like I'm kind of sitting here. I'm stunned. I'm dazed. I'm confused.
We have to reset. Like,
it's like, wow.
You came here for the derailment. Are you not entertained, dear listeners?
Now the Sautekh Dynasty stands as a resurgent power, an unyielding menace on the Imperium's eastern borders. To the Imperium's beleaguered scholars and commanders, the Sautekh is synonymous with the Necron race itself, a misconception born of the dynasty's supremacy. Many wrongly believe that the other Necron dynasties are mere splinters of the Sautek's inexorable might. The nobility of the Sautekh Dynasty. That's a good comment.
That's a good
That's a
comment.
good comment.
The Lupercal says, I think his name is now Imo Trump.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Damn it.
We're back to it. You're going to make Limo lose his ring. Stop. Don't make him laugh.
I just need to do some biotransference. I'll try turning myself off and back on again. Well, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
The nobility of the Sautekh Dynasty is renowned for its aggressive ambition and unrelenting drive to reclaim the ancient glory of the Necron race. Worlds beyond the reach of humanity often fall under their dominion, their populations subjugated and enslaved to fuel the dynasty's relentless advance. Yet, even their fellow Necron dynasties are not spared. Those who refuse to submit are met with calculated warfare, where respect and honor are offered in battle, but only after defeat.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah. It's cool how he has like this martial code, that he kind of falls to, even though he has no reason to have any code that he needs to follow, being one of the most powerful people in the galaxy, but he still has this like his own sense of right and wrong, I suppose, for sure.
And again, like, how many other Necron do you see that function like that? Because I can't really say that Trazen is very respectful to the people that he fights. How many Necrons see the fleshy things as mere fleshy things? They're not Necron. They really could not care less. And he doesn't sound like a standard issue Necron, and it makes me wonder if he's deviating from his programming.
Yeah. Well, or maybe this, like, he's in a position in his dynasty that he was never meant for. So maybe that kind of affects how he's able to really, or why he's kind of such a different mentality than the Phaeron, because he's not supposed to be the Phaeron.
But if he's really a synthetic Robo Boy, how does he have the freedom of function to just kind of like not be Robo Boy? It sounds like soul. It's not soulless behavior. He's going to have a conversation with Necron HR and be reminded that he doesn't have a soul.
Poor guy.
That's the funny thing about 40K, though, is we always talk about these situations where, that rarely happens. Necrons are 98% just soulless robot. Soulless Skellboys. Quoth Purge, who very much prefers Oldcron from earlier in the chat. But yeah, this is one of those exceptions that we always hear so much about. So at least that's the way I'm reading into it.
I would love to hear more on Purge, on why he likes Oldcrons more. That'd be fun. So definitely call in at the end and maybe we'll chat more. But
yes,
I do have a couple of his comments too.
Oh, okay, yeah, if you have them.
Let me see here. Hold on. Let me go find the start of it. Personally, that part turns me off from the Necrons, the intrigue of a political court. Then he says, but it's nice for them to have death, but just don't know if adding the political intrigue was a good way for that, in my honest opinion. It makes it seem too human almost, and that's kind of where it goes from there. So
sure. Interesting.
It makes me wonder if Purge would prefer it if we had like a show don't tell of the exact same mechanic, where you were never told that they have a political court, but from reading Necron fluff, you could almost completely infer that they have one in the background, and that every so often when they're at their best, it's that one nemesis or that one general that's really kicking ass. But when things get weird, it's when the committee kicks in. Would you perhaps prefer that?
Yeah, I think he should call in at the end for sure. Make his case.
Agreed.
Live in 3D.
Because once a rival dynasty is broken, its assimilation into the Sautek's iron hierarchy is swift and merciless. Guided by the strategic brilliance of Imotekh the Stormlord, the Sautekh Dynasty marches ever forward, a timeless and relentless force intent on restoring the Necrons to their rightful place as ruler of the stars. Stars. Yeah.
Are made up, so don't worry about it. Yeah. Cool. So the dynasty has quite a few worlds, as mentioned. There's 80 of them. There are some that have a little bit of information that kind of really expanded to the dynasty, added a little flavor to it or Imotekh. And then there's a lot that we had the name of, but no real information on. So.
Okay. And unfortunately, I looked ahead into the notes. There's no more Imotekh quotes for me to quote, so you're not gonna get one from me. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
I'll find one for you. Don't worry.
Yeah, we can go grab you some.
I got Trazen quotes pointed up, but I have a separate voice for him, as opposed to what I would do for Imotekh. But
no, I think now that we all know his voice, we need to all do quotes again at the end of the episode to really determine. We'll get there later.
Fair enough. So let's talk about the known worlds of the Sautekh Dynasty and how you can make the Sautekh Dynasty great again. That almost
got oddly sexual at the end. You can make it great again. Are you hitting on us, Gerald?
Oh, Lord. The Sautekh Dynasty, supreme in ambition and strategy, commands an empire of 80 tomb worlds that form the unyielding core of its dominion. Each tomb world is a monument to Necron mastery, bristling with ancient technology and legions of tireless warriors. At the heart of this empire lies Mandragora, the crown world, a dark jewel on the eastern fringe that serves as the nexus of the dynasty's power. These tomb worlds, scattered across the void, awaken one by one under the cold directive of galactic conquest, their resources and armies marshaled with precision to expand the dynasty's reach. The Sautekh tomb worlds stand as a grim testament to the Necrons' eternal vigilance, their hierarchies operating with a relentless efficiency under the iron will of Nemesis Imotekh the Stormlord. Together, they form an unassailable foundation for the dynasty's goal of reclaiming supremacy over the stars. Necron supremacy for the win. Mandragora. When the war in heaven concluded, Mandragora's stasis crypts were filled with the finest Necron warriors preserved in a state of unyielding readiness. For eons, the world slumbered, a forgotten monument to an ancient past. But with the re-awakening of the Necron race, the Mandragora has risen once more, becoming a central hub of Necron activity and strategic command. Under the iron rule of Phaeron Imotekh, legions of Necrons have been dispatched to annihilate the orc war boss Snagatooth and his brutal warband, which has long occupied the surrounding tomb worlds. The relentless forces of Mandragora now march as an ever-present shadow upon the eastern borders of the Imperium, their presence a constant reminder that the Necrons have returned to claim their dominion over the stars.
Cool.
Avarice. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. The planet known as Avarice was originally a Necron tomb world of the Sautekh Dynasty. During the dormancy of the Necrons, the world was settled as an Imperial night world. In 975 M41, the Necrons began to reawaken, assailing the planet's inhabitants. However, the Gauss technology of the aliens was ineffective against the ion shields used by the world's knights. And with 3 knightly houses able to bring these walkers to the field of battle, the rulers of Avarice are confident that the ongoing war will soon end in the Imperium's favor.
That planet better hope that Imotekh doesn't hear about this, that the Imperium's fucking with one of his planets, because then, that night house is finito.
He will not take to such impudence lightly.
Yeah.
Canavar.
Listen, I have to have the Avarice Canal. It's super important to our trade routes.
And I will rename it the Sautekh Canal. Thank you.
Jeez.
After we annex it, We're going to annex it. We're going to buy it for a very good deal. Thank you.
Reanimation protocols, they're not working as they used to. We need to have new reanimation protocols. We need a healthier Necron. We're going to
They're
be
gonna
like
be
the
bigger,
Necron
better.
again.
Man, I am just not going to try Trump. Not even going to try.
Oh boy. Canavar. Canavar was formerly a world of the Tau Empire before being overrun by Necron forces under Overlord Zandrek in 813 and 41. Lightly defended, the world's small defense force was overrun by the Necrons in 2 weeks. Or I guess it being a Tau world, is it Canavar or something like that? I don't know. Let's ask the resident Tau expert, Mark.
I've never heard that before. Clicking there. Yeah, no, that's wrong. That sounds almost highly offensive, even. But I like it. Canovar.
Canavar.
Yeah, we'll go with that from now on.
How's it? Tau. Yeah.
Ow. Yeah, that's definitely it. Canovar. Yeah, that's fine.
Let's see here. Davitas is another world. Gore is another world. Here's them. Gidrim. Yeah. Gidrim is a Necron tomb world that forms a part of the Sautekh Dynasty of Imotekh the Stormlord. Ruled over by the Nemesaur Zandrek, it has expanded into a miniature empire to the point of including 12 star systems. I would like to point out, we're making a big deal of this being 80 tomb worlds, but then when you look at like the Imperium of 1 million worlds, or just the Ultramar system, or the I was about to say the Blueberries, the Ultramarines, like 500 world, basically mini empire, but and it's just like, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. Like, I don't know. I just
Yeah, like we can always say every time numbers happen in 40K, they're gonna be fucked. Maybe you could justify it that like each world is like actually important, where the Imperium might count like a cemetery world as one of their 500 worlds, and it's like, well, what is that really? What do you got going on there? But yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, it doesn't seem that big, but also it's just one Necron faction.
But then again, it's kind of like 1 million Necron warriors is not even slightly comparable to 1 million guardsmen.
Yeah, you put them against each other, and it's a fucking slaughter. Another Imperial victory, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Fuzz actually brings a good question. Is it 80? Is it only 80 worlds, or just the 80 that have awoken? So
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, sure.
Maybe the Necron don't even know, because, well, how can you check if a computer is running if it's not turned on? And if they're asleep, it may be a cryostasis, but they're not exactly doing anything. So maybe it could go both ways.
good way to kind of cop out and basically say, just use your imagination. So, see another world. Drok, Medusa 7. Okay, here's something with some information. Medusa 7 is a dead world with an Ordo Xenos quarantine placed over it for unusual Necron tier activity. Because it is believed to be a Necron tier home world, the surface surveys have been near impossible. All life on the planet has been destroyed, and if the planet had weather in the past, it is guessed to have happened hundreds of thousands of years ago. So, just a random dead world for Necron activity. Any world is a tomb world if you believe hard enough.
Canon. Yeah.
Let's see here. Novacor is another one. Rithkaren is another one. Schrödinger 7 is another one. Does it exist? Does it not? Who knows? Ha ha ha. Psychology reference. Sorry, philosophy reference. Samanor. Overseen by the Necron overlord Zeron. Zeron. It was forced to pledge allegiance to Imotekh the Stormlord when threatened by an Eldar war host of the Farseer, Starbane of Craftworld Imotekh. The combined forces of Salmanor and the Imotekh managed to defeat the Eldar in the Siege of Salmanor, and since then the world has remained in the Sautekh Dynasty's fold. So kicking ass, taking names, butchering a bunch of Eldar, as one does. And then the last named world, which we have nothing about, is called Venur, Vanur. So,
yeah, cool. Yeah, you know, like we've said a bunch of times, they got 80 worlds. So there's only a couple that are named. Another key factor to the size of their dynasty that I kind of just forgot about until we got to the notes of right now is they do have a bunch of client dynasties attached to them as well. And we do have 4 named ones that we know of, but they might have many more client dynasties, each with a dozen worlds themselves to kind of expand and grow and build upon. And maybe even the other factor on that planet number would be like, you know, you have a planet of Xenos worshippers for the Necron. Do you include that in your world number? Kind of counts. Maybe I need to go back to like Tomb Worlds quickly and just read like, I know they have different types of Tomb Worlds, but I'm curious like if you have to reach a certain level to be considered a Tomb World, or if you just have one outpost, then you're considered a Tomb World. So I'm going to that.
Yeah, so getting into the client dynasties, the first one they have is the Aranmarok dynasty, ruled over by Overlord. I'm going to say Caesarean, but I know I'm contradicting you, Gerald. Sorry. Originally independent in 798 M41, its overlord Caesarean was forced to pledge allegiance to Imotekh in order to defend against an Eldar invasion of his tomb world, Salmanar, by Farseer Starbane. Okay, and then we got another one called the Horth Dynasty. We have no information on that one. And then the next one is the Sekemtar Dynasty, and it's ruled over by Overlord Nazar. The Sekemtar have been in the service of Imotekh for years, conquered by the Stormlord during the Necron Wars of Succession. So not a ton of information on that one, but just a little more of a footnote. The next one we have is the Karnak Dynasty. Sorry, go ahead, Merc.
Yeah, I kind of like just noting how kind of different interactions play out. Like, okay, so one definitely joined before, but we also have another example of Imotekh saving and joining after the War in Heaven, after the Great Slumber. Kind of fun to kind of know the different ways it can happen.
Lupercal has a pretty interesting comment. The limited knowledge on Necrons comes mainly from the Battlefleet Gothic 2, and it comes across that they also have a sort of vaults on some worlds where they are more like outposts with dolmen gates.
Fringe worlds.
Yeah. When I read the Lexicanum, Tomb Worlds consists of either Crown Worlds, Core Worlds, or Fringe Worlds, which are like those small little outposts and distant colonies. So yeah, basically if you have a Necron, any Necron presence on your planet, you're considered a Tomb World, because ultimately it is the Necron's planet at that point, regardless of if it's inhabited or not. If there's a Necron presence, it's theirs. They have claimed it.
Even if it's like overrun by Tyranids.
Even then, especially then. Oh no, you're gonna make this planet a dead world?
Necron.
Yeah. We like that. Go for it. Oh, you're gonna kill all our enemies for us and then we'll just claim the dead planet? We like that.
Fair. All right, so the Karnak Dynasty. They were once a part of the Sautekh Dynasty, but this changed after they awoke from the deep sleep. Upon doing so, the dynasty believed themselves to be cursed revenants that were trapped in their metal bodies. As a result, they became the Karnak Dynasty, and now fervently believe it is their duty to relieve their less enlightened Necron kin of the cursed imprisonment the Satan placed upon their race. Led by Phaeron Arkasa, the Karnak Dynasty seeks to destroy all of the Necron and their tomb worlds as well, in order to prevent any chance of reanimation. In their arrogance, the Karnak have also come to believe that if the Necron could make a mistake as grave as biotransference, then other xenospecies could do the same. In order to prevent this from happening, the Karnak have also begun a crusade to wipe out all forms of sentient life from the galaxy.
Nice. Perfect. Yeah.
Exactly how AIs are supposed to act.
Exactly.
Another happy ending.
Yeah.
Sounds like an entire
Wiping
dynasty
out-
that's. Oh, sorry. Sounds like an entire
No, go
dynasty
ahead.
that's likely to create destroyer cults.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of cool thought for sure. Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of another cool way of how these dynasties, these client dynasties can interact. You know, they can split away and go their own way as well. Up next, we have the Pariah Crusade. And like Gerald kind of briefly mentioned, this was like the big main 9th edition campaign book, launch book. There's a lot of information in there. It's a whole big battle. There's a whole bunch of Astartes chapters involved. There's a whole bunch going on. But why I wanted to talk about it was this is the return of the Silent King, and Imotekh and the Silent King get into it a little bit here. So we're going to see how that plays out. The Silent King is like the big main leader of the Necron, and he went away from the galaxy. He made the command protocols and basically then left. And he decided to come back because of the Tyranid menace. And yeah, now it's like he is the rightful heir to the Necron, all the Necron race. Like he should be the rulers, but he is opposed to just dominating everyone. So he's trying to earn everyone, but he wasn't able to. Yeah, we'll see where this story goes. But like I said, there's a lot in this book. So if we don't talk about your favorite Space Marine in chapter, fuck it, it's not a Space Marine episode. Go get a girlfriend or something. The Pariah Crusade.
Mark, I'm trying.
You don't talk about the Space Marines too often. Only once a day do I get messages about it from you, Gerald. But
Because I
it's
know
fine.
better than not. Because I know better than to disturb you about Space Marines.
Hey, Mark, you want to see my Primaris Marines?
His female Primaris Marines.
Oh God. Yeah, that's almost bootable words. You know, if you say the
Okay,
one
I'm not
Primarch,
that
that's
heretical. How
bootable,
dare
but-
you?
Yeah.
I am not that heretical. How dare you?
Mark calling us out. Jack's in the chat. All right. The Pariah Crusade, or the Nephilim War, is a campaign of the Psychic Awakening and the Indominus Crusade. While initially a standard Imperial expedition to investigate the fate of the Nephilim sector, it has since escalated into a four-way conflict involving humanity, chaos, and the two differing Necron factions. So we're gonna jump like deep into this campaign. Like I said, there's a bunch of stuff what happens, but let's just say a bunch of stuff happens and the Silent King shows up, and we'll take it from there. The Silent King, Sautekh, arrived on the tomb world of Zendu, his presence heralding the beginning of an era of unfathomable destruction. His gaze fell upon the Pariah Nexus, its defenses against the human scourge now at the focal point of his unyielding will. A sea of Necron overlords and Triarch Praetorians stood in solemn attendance. Their worship of their king manifested in the offering of captured human blanks intended for dark experimentation. Very interesting. With Caesaric's return, the Necron's forces, long held in check under the command of the formidable Caesarus, were mobilized. Millions of warriors surged forward like an unstoppable tide, a counteroffensive so immense it would erase any remnants of the human threat. Caesaric, ever present at the front lines of battle, stood in grim silence, offering the human surrender. Yet, to his begrudging respect, they never relented. The inevitable tide of death they had summoned could never be turned aside. In the Battle of Rorgatus III, the Silent King played a cruel game of predation, allowing the Imperial forces a violent if futile effort by the Brigantine Plains Rangers and the Holasai Sky Commandos to briefly escape to the landing craft before he unleashed the full wrath of 5 Satan shards. The heavens themselves darkened as annihilation barges and canoptic wraiths descend like death itself, obliterating the remnants of the Imperial forces. Meanwhile, on the moon of Boreas, Caesaric wielded the might of his cryptids sorry, to unleash a trillion scarabs, a swarm so vast it consumed all in its path. Yet it was Kirpita, his vengeful commander, who found himself at the center of an insult, a challenge issued by a Space Marine captain. When Kirpita was forced to delay his advance, Caesaric fury was unleashed with vengeance, deploying a song of oblivion to cleave the moon asunder, its fragmented ruins a monument of his unrelenting wrath. and this is the even bigger bad than Imotekh. This guy's busting up moons. This guy's the all-powerful Necron. And he's come to retake his crown. Elsewhere, the Necron dynasties played their own twisted games. Phaeron Shemvok, though physically regenerating from prior destruction, exerted his will through lesser Necron lords, sending his forces into the Gebin Nebula, where they annihilated an entire Imperial fleet, followed by the ruthless extermination of the human population. Meanwhile, Orkan the Diviner, alongside his cryptids, led a terrifying force drawn from Thazakian, Orshik, and Urtep dynasties against the Sisters of Battle at Vannis III, a battle that would be remembered for its sheer devastation. Despite the loyalty of his vassals, Caesaric found his campaign in the Nephilim scepter hampered by the infernal strife and shifting ambitions within his ranks. Trazyn, the ever-schemer, revealed the location of the Necron presence in his system, unleashing the chaos as he seized the humans' ship's crew for his own cryptic purposes. Just kidnapping. It's all good. It's no big deal. This act sparked a brutal void battle, the loss of life, both Necron and Imperial, fueled by the egos of his fellow overlords. Neshkafar, a loyal servant of the Silent King, was forced to sacrifice a portion of his fleet. Needlessly, his forces caught in the wake of Trazyn's machinations. Meanwhile, the Uruk-Kash dynasty, led by the wily Karafar Lakishmet, sought to curry favor with Caesaric, sending 50,000 warriors into a deadly contest for dominance. The smaller, lesser dynasties like the Pateshthis and the Urtep and the Mefret, wow, man, those Egyptian names are fun, used the war as their own personal stage to settle ancient feuds. The Mefret annexing neighboring territories in a bid for power, while the Feshteh clashed, while the Nihilek dynasty's forces loyal to the Silent King. Amidst the chaos, Phaeron Vordashk pursued an obsessive vendetta against the orcs of the galactic southeast, his mind consumed with the need for vengeance. Caesaric's war had become one of brutality, betrayal, and boundless ambition. In the midst of his immortal might, the Silent King's strategic vision remained clear. He would let none stand in his way of vengeance. Every move was calculated, his every ally an asset to further his goals, and every enemy a potential tool to exploit. The Nephilim sector would bend beneath his iron grip, the struggle for power within his ranks only a means to further his overreaching vision. None would escape the storm that Caesaric had set in motion, for he was as relentless as time itself, an immortal force driven by the inevitability of conquest. So he kind of comes in and he doesn't really care too much what's happening. All the other factions, what they're up to, he doesn't really care too much. He's got his own plans and goals going on here.
Bless you, sir, for being able to read out all those Necron names and not die in the process.
Oh, yeah, man. It's like having a mini stroke every time. Fuck.
Do you like spontaneously combust if you do too many of them back to back?
The one thing I always tell myself is the reader doesn't know how it's actually spelled, so I can say whatever I want. That helps a little bit, but fuck, man.
I mean,
but yeah, like he kind of comes in and, there's a couple shifting. Like, it's an interesting time for all of the Necrons because everyone's left with this choice of what do we do now? Do we try to ferry the Silent King's favor? Do we turn against him? Like, is this my chance to make a move now that all eyes are over here? Like, the whole Necron race kind of is now reshuffling.
And then here's just Trazyn just like stealing people and things left and right. Trazyn voice incoming. The other Necron overlords won't tell you this, but if you can just pick it up and take it home, they're completely free.
phenomenal. Or instead of collecting these other people, you can just collect people who listen to and watch this space. That's what I prefer, honestly.
yeah.
I think we lost Jordan. Did Trazen come collect him or something?
Yeah, Tracy got Jordan. No.
Lost to the zone.
He is a
Like
fucking
I told-
collectible, though. I don't blame Trazen for wanting Jordan in his collection.
Well, it's
I
like I
wanted him.
told you. It's like I told you, mortals. If you could just pick him up and take him home, he's completely free. So I picked him
Yep.
up and I took him home.
I have 37 mortals.
Completely.
Speaking of collecting mortals, how about we talk about schism? Under the command of Megasolt, Hephaestus's forces first encountered the fragmented remnants of Imperial survivors on Paradise. Oh, wow, that's on the nose. Imperial survivors on Paradise. Yeah, let's get back to the Imperium right away. The survivors, a motley force of Imperial Guard and Ecclesiarchy, were locked in a relentless struggle against the advancing tides of Necron constructs. The Imperials, steeled by their survival, began their campaign by driving the Tomb-World ships away from the orbit of Paradise, initiating a counterstrike to reclaim the surface from the encroaching Xenos. The order was given by Zolt to deploy relief forces to annihilate the remaining Necron constructs, a strategic move repeated across the region. Yet, for all the successes, the toll on the human forces was profound, with all but the rescued Space Marines bearing the weight of extreme exhaustion. It was in this fraught moment, amidst the chaos of battle, that the forces of the Sautekh Dynasty, led by Imotekh the Stormlord, descended upon the battlefield. The Stormlord, ever vigilant, had long feared the return of the Silent King. The Silent King's plans to reverse biotransference and resurrect the Necron race clashed with Imotech's vision. To him, the machine forms of the Necron were perfection, and their return as Zazarek threatened to undo that order. Imotech's strategic genius set him against his own kind, moving quickly to sabotage Zazarek's plans before they could take shape. The battle line shifted as Sautekh forces engaged the Imperials only to pull back at the last moment, sabotaging other Necron factions, and at times even turning on their own. As Sautekh loyalists made their move, Imperial commanders were left bewildered and unprepared, trying to make sense of the sudden fracturing of their foe. On Vertigus II, Call, directing forces from the Mechanicum, Iron Hands, and House Tyrannus, found his position under siege as a new wave of Necron arrived, not to face the humans, but to turn weapons upon each other. Call's sharp mind quickly deduced the truth: a civil war within the Necron race. Only a genius could notice a civil war. As a result, the battlefield was soon cleared, with all Necron forces either annihilated or vanished.
Wouldn't that be an interesting revelation, though? Like, the Necron are pretty new, and when the Necron show up, they don't leave a lot of survivors. And the Necron aren't really telling you who they are. They're not handing out pamphlets of the greater good, trying to get you to join. Yeah, but just imagine Call's like, oh, they're fighting. They're capable of fighting. Like, they're not just all one unified front. There'd be like a little glimmer of hope almost there that the Necron aren't all just like united, you know?
Would the Necron respect humans enough for the most part, other than when this guy's taking people's hands and introducing the Ultramarines into the Iron Hands? Other than that,
That's
do
not a
they
thing.
really... do they
I have to say that for legal reasons, you know?
Nah. Nemo Forever canon is... it's the canon. It's obvious.
Yeah.
Do they respect humans enough to actually, like, talk to them and parlay with them? I mean, like, we've had it previously stated so far that they're willing to let them retreat, which would... There's some communication going on, but...
Yeah, I feel like the communication is like the classic, like, evil bad guy monologue where it's like his communication is first he spends 10 minutes listing off his titles and how cool he is, and then he spends 10 minutes like how he's going to destroy you, how everything you do sucks. Like, it's not really like a two-way conversation. He's talking at you, telling you how good he is.
Well, firstly, welcome back, Jordan. It looks like he escaped Trajan's Tesseract Vault. So,
Oh, lucky guy.
How'd you do that?
But
That's
you know,
what I was trying
as
to
the
do.
chat says, he might have some scarabs in his brain now, so we got to keep an ever watchful eye out for what happened to him when we weren't watching.
and then secondly, an interesting question from Liar in the comments: is there enough variation in their looks from dynasty to dynasty that humans might not even recognize them as the same species?
No, like you know, it's made of the necrodermis, and like even you think of destroyers where they will modify their bodies, they'll rip off their lower half and then put jet propulsions in them. Like they still look like, you know, a skeleton, or still very necrodermis, necron-y. I really don't think there is that much variation. Now, maybe this, I could give you this. They do have all their canoptic creatures. So maybe if a dynasty leaned heavily on canoptic creatures, you could almost be like, well, what the fuck are those compared to these?
Well, there is.
But I think the
one-
necrodermis is a pretty good giveaway.
There is one dynasty where it's all gold, so the emperor definitely stole the idea from them, since they're obviously older than the Imperium of Man and the God Emperor. So that now we know why all the freaking marine armor, not marine armor. What are they called again? Man, I'm terrible at this.
Custodes.
Pressure.
Yes. Now we know why the custodians are gold.
Makes sense.
Ah.
Makes sense.
What are they called? Dynasty.
That is an aggressive keyboard, my friend.
Oh,
Roar.
shit.
While he's typing away at that, Fuzz has a another question. Isn't there a record of them allying with humanity against other foes like the Nids or maybe the Orcs? And I definitely Nids. I think was it not Devastation to Ball, but there was a point that was made where, like, I think Zarek, the Silent King himself, tried to claim that he actually befriended Sanguinius, like before he died in the Horus Heresy. As like a way to ally with the Blood Angels against some Nid threat. Maybe it was Devastation of Ball. I don't know.
Yeah, it was.
So don't at me.
But-
Don't at me.
Yeah. Well, but even that conversation almost shows like they're not communicating in good faith. That was a manipulation, that conversation. It goes back to that, like, you know, the Necron aren't they don't see you as equal. So the conversation results in that, or reflects that, I mean.
Yeah, most Necron dynasties are majority what you'd expect. You see the green. The Neferek have them in gold with like a bit of the green sigil in the middle, but otherwise, no, you would not have a good time identifying them.
I mean, it's the same basic robot skeleton shape. Even if there is some slight variation, it's close enough to where, like, you can tell that's Necron for the most part.
For sure.
If you see a croissant trying to do orbital bombardment on you from the sky, it might be Necron.
That's Necron.
If
It
you
might
see a
be
croissant
Necron.
that's orbital drop, that's a Necron.
Oh, that's
At least you'll feel
beautiful.
hungry while you're being annihilated.
That's the worst part about it, eh?
And while you're feeling hungry, the flares turn up and give you another reason to be hungry.
Why did they get all the good meats?
Because they're the ones that are
Leave
they're
some
proven
corpse
they're the
hearts for the
hungry
rest of
ones.
us.
The Necron Schism, born of Imitech's ambitions and the disarray it wrought, provided the Imperials an unexpected opportunity. The shattered remnants of battle group Kalides, once lost to the Pariah Nexus, were now reachable. The fall? Group Master or Chapter Master?
Couldn't say.
Yeah.
The fall of Chapter Master.
I think it's Group Master. I don't, because It's just like an Imperial force. I could be wrong, though.
Well, the fall of Marin, though his body was never recovered, became a rallying cry. He was posthumously declared an Imperial saint. No word came from Arnulf or Stormvor. Through whispers suggested they had fought their way through Necron lines, heading deeper into the heart of the Nephilim sector. With the command of Imperial forces within the Pariah Nexus now passed to Khal and Vicraean, Group Master Vicraean, a solid foothold was established in the northern Nephilim sector, yet despite their losses, the production of Khal's liminal abrasers faltered, hindered by low noctilith quotas and friction within the Mechanicum itself. It was in this climate of strained resources and strategic uncertainty that Inquisitor Draxus resurfaced. Boarding the Zar Quaestor, she sought an audience with Khal, revealing that her apparent retreat had been a ruse. Draxus had uncovered the secret that could bring down the entire Pariah Nexus, an opportunity the Imperium could not afford to overlook.
Yeah, the plot thickens with it.
And now we get to talk about a little bit more of kind of Zarek's and Imotech's little tiff that Mark was mentioning earlier. Silence and Storm. Zarek, ever vigilant, sought to use Orokin the Diviner to peer into the future and discern Imotech's next move. But the Diviner, ever the enigma, rejected the summons, choosing instead to follow his own inscrutable path. Meanwhile, Imotekh, unyielding and relentless, tightened his grip on the northeastern Pariah Nexus. With strategic precision, his forces captured 3 full systems, draining the strength of the Necron Dynasty through relentless attrition. Then, with the cold efficiency of a master tactician, he activated a dolmen gate and personally led an assault on the distant Mirtika system. His primary target was Vergoy's Alphic, a world of immense strategic value. The world was home to a critical pylon cluster, one vital to maintaining the integrity of the Pariah Nexus itself. Zarek, unwilling to let his plans be thwarted, tasked Nemesis Imotekh with stopping the Stormlord's advance. Victory in Zarek's mind was not merely desirable, it was essential. Not only would it safeguard his own plans for the Pariah Nexus, but it would also prevent more dynasties from rallying to Imotech's banner, undermining his fragile grip on the Necron race. I think I find it funny that even though Zarek is the Silent King, he is like the Necron of all Necrons. Like, because he deleted his command protocols, like his grip, actual authority over them is very, very, very tenuous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool though. Like, just he wants to earn it, earn that trust back.
Yeah, who could blame him? Pretty based as well. Anyways,
But
the Imperial.
Sorry.
What? Go ahead.
Oh, I can definitely rant about that. Like, back when they were Necron tier, getting them to cooperate was like herding cats. They went to war against the old ones for a reason, to unify themselves, just as much as it was to try and earn some immortality, or at least a cure to their mega cancers.
Sure, yeah.
Then he deletes the command protocols.
Yeah.
Nothing brings species together like war, hey? Good old genocide.
Imperial forces stationed on Vergoy's Alphic, already sparse and overstretched, stood little chance against the 2 Necron armies converging on the world. As Imotek's forces moved in, crushing the opposition, the Imperial commander, Magos Lundkest, remained distant, watching from the relative safety of his command ship. At that critical moment, a flotilla led by Inquisitor Draxus arrived in system, bringing with it an elite force of Martian Skitarii and Deathwatch Space Marines. With Imotek's forces entrenched in battle with Imotech's legions, only a token garrison remained to defend the pylon complex. It was there that Draxus made her move. Swiftly, she and her reinforcements captured the pylons, establishing a defensive perimeter around the complex. As Imotek's forces were forced to turn to were forced to turn to face the Imperials, Imotekh, ever the strategist, withdrew through the Dolmen Gate, taking his forces with him. Meanwhile, Draxus and her entourage ventured deeper into the pylon complex. Their objective clear: sabotage. The structures, ancient and vital to the functioning of the Pariah Nexus, began to implode under their actions. In the ensuing chaos, most of the Imperial forces managed to escape the impending doom. However, Vorgoy's Alphic paid a terrible price. A devastating explosion wiped out the majority of Utmek's remaining army, reducing his forces to ashes. With her mission complete, Draxus vanished as swiftly as she had arrived, leaving the ruins of Vorgoy's Alphic behind her. The Silent King's plans were disrupted. His enemies dealt a blow that would echo across the Pariah Nexus, but even in defeat, Zarek's reach remained long. Imotech's victory was only one chapter in an eternal war.
Yeah, very cool. And I think that's where we leave it for this story. We kind of get the gist of it. We don't really need to know much more about, there, like I said, there's so much. We could do a whole episode on this. I think we got the concept though. Like Imotekh and Zarek, they're at odds, and now they got their own goals and ambitions and their own things going on for sure. Yeah, I feel like there's a couple things I learned for sure about Imotekh when doing this. Like he is kind of the archetypal Necron, as Gerald said. He wants the best for his people. He's kind of a terrifying Necron. He does all the right things, brilliant strategist. He wins every war he's in as well, which is another crazy thing about this guy. There's one other one, but it kind of just fell out of my brain right now. But yeah, that was kind of my takeaways. What do you guys kind of feel about Imotekh and his dynasty?
Don't everyone raise your hands all at once.
Yeah. Don't make me get call-ins if you're not willing to talk to me.
Does that mean you'll promise to feed us live casts to keep in my basement if I say nothing?
I will make that promise. I'm okay with that too. I don't owe those people anything that you eat. It's all good. Whatever.
But personally,
oh yeah. Sorry, go for it.
Well, personally, this Necron's my favorite, except for when Orkin and Trazyn are old man and crotchety fighting each other.
Yeah,
This
that's
is my
nice.
favorite Necron because he has enough going on as just a badass leader robot guy, but he also has enough going on where it makes me genuinely wonder if he's at risk of corruption.
In what way?
He seems very, if not human, he seems still very, it's not soulless behavior. Out of many of the Necron leaderships, he has enough going on as that transhuman or trans-Necron tier robot where he's more, but there's definitely enough to rub together to make me get conspiratorial. And I like being conspiratorial.
Yeah, that maybe we need to do an episode one day called Souls in 40K where we could all just really break down what we think it is. I've said, like, what is a soul anyways? Maybe we all need to define that for ourselves. That'll be a fun episode. It's in the notes.
I mean,
now.
That's not even a thing we can figure out in our universe. I don't know
Well,
if we're gonna figure it out in the 40K universe.
That'll be the quickest way to
we
get this
can
whole thing
try.
monetized.
A soul is, yeah. No, I think that would be a fun episode. Actually, it would really be revealing about your guys' personal beliefs as well.
I do think, though, I will sort of echo what Nemo is saying. In a sense, it seems like he has more personality. I would say than someone who is soulless would have, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You can program personality, though.
That's true. You're not wrong.
Mhm.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
How far does that programming go?
Except for the fact that much was never supposed to make it in. Like, I can't really imagine the Catan deliberately trying to design the Necrons to be easily capable of rebellion, except for the Silent King doing it himself.
Yeah, but like even the Satan were a little bit deceived when this whole process kind of happened. Like the Silent King had some interference and was doing some stuff too, and he wasn't able to fully save his people, but he kind of made all those codes and did some stuff and added his own flavor to that process, I think, to allow some people to kind of remain kind of sentient and aware. He didn't have that dial all the way cranked of the soul suck.
Never use that phrase again, please. We're no
I'm
longer
telling
talking
you-
about the Emperor's children. Thank you.
We need to do an episode on souls so we can talk about all types of different things, including soul sucking.
But you're not in Canada, so you can even do it with a plastic straw.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. Do you drink your souls through a plastic straw? Or do you use chopsticks? How do
They're-
you eat your souls?
My souls are very succulent when I suck them.
Mm.
I prefer to have mine dried out like jerky in my basement first.
Ah.
It's a low carb. It's a little. It helps with the carbs. I know it doesn't, but I think it does.
Warning to the wise: don't ever eat the black souls because they're burnt. And I mean like black, not skin color, you guys. If that's where your mind went. Just bad souls. Don't eat the bad souls.
Well, when you said black souls, I thought black soul gems.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go.
Like from
Skyrim.
Skyrim. Yeah.
Good,
Fair
good. The other point I want to mention was, the other thing I kind of really liked was Imotekh wasn't from before the Great Sleep. You know, his position was gained afterwards, which I thought was very cool. You know, he didn't go to sleep with this huge empire. No, he woke up. His empire was kind of in shambles, and he took it upon himself to kind of just rebuild it and make it bigger and better than before.
Yeah, but it also kind of shows to his character, like he sees the moment, right? Like they woke up from the sleep, and he was like, "I'm gonna take advantage of this," and that's why he's a badass. So
Yeah,
I think-
for sure.
I think this kind of harkens back to one of my favorite types of villains. Well, I say villains, but one of my favorite tropes of villains and characters is like, because he technically started out as a nobody, but all of a sudden this chance came to him when his Phaeron had perished, and then his dynasty was in shambles. So then he took that upon himself to not just to basically turn in from a nobody and become somebody. And now he is like a terror of the galaxy, and that I love it when villains do that.
A real rags to riches story, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I got two questions that I kind of really thought were important to ask before we end this episode. No call-ins today, just because we already have 4 people on the stream, and otherwise it could get a little too chaotic. But the two questions I have for you guys. The first one is, what are Imotech's true intentions regarding the Silent King's long-term plans for the Necron race? At the end of the prior crusade, everything in typical 40k kind of stalemates out, and you know, it's not decided one way or the other. The Silent King and Imotekh are still at odds. Do you think this would ever change? Is there a reason for it?
I'd have no idea personally.
Yeah.
So we saw Imotekh the instant he woke up, started kicking ass and taking names internally within the dynasty to take the ruined mess. Lubrical's got some kick-ass comments going on these days.
Gonna start a new Skyrim save now and call my main character Trazen and collect everyone's souls in black soul gems.
I respect that.
Based.
Yeah, that's nice. Stay away from the black souls, though. They're burning, I'm telling you.
Don't snort the black soul dust. It's not good for your health.
It's not
Unless
good.
you're a Jukari, then by all means go for it.
You do you. You only live once.
YOLO Seriman Kai.
Yeah, like, you know, it is nice that the Silent King came back, and it's not just like an auto everyone joins him. Like, even though he is the rightful king, it's cool that there's like these these strong factions against it. I like too that they took the biggest Necron and said no, he's not going to join. Like, he doesn't just get the biggest dynasty. You got to play those Necron court games before you just win over the biggest Sautekh Dynasty.
But you know what? With him immediately trying to mend his dynasty when he woke up, it made me wonder if he was mending it for his own sake, or if he was mending it out of loyalty to the Silent King, in the same way that one Necron that was supposed to be able to oppose him just ended up as loyal to him too. Because it's kind of like the dream of the Immortal Empire is not a small thing in the minds of those Necrons that do have any form of mind, in the name of that Immortal Dynasty. And that's where the ancient Egyptian thing comes in too. That Immortal Dynasty with those unshakable relics, those fantastic monuments, a unrivaled culture. The Necrons that have the minds to believe that they made the perfect culture and that there's no other culture worth preserving.
Yeah.
Except for Trazen, because Trazen.
Yeah. And the other question I had for you, and I think we kind of have an answer for it, but maybe there'll be a slightly different take. How does Imotekh view the Satan shards, and what are his long-term plans for using them in his ongoing war? We did have the one example where he had 5 Satan shards, or was that the Silent King? I forget. But I'm pretty sure there's examples of Imotekh using Satan shards. Do you think they're just another tool to him? Do you think eventually he wants to destroy them, or like any plans? Just likes the status quo of using them as like a battery.
I mean, kind of like he's not opposed to using like outcasts in his army in a limited fashion. So, in his willingness to use 5 Satan shards, I think he kind of sees everything as a tool for his conquest to fuck shit up, refuse to elaborate, and then leave. So,
yeah, it's not like he has like a grudge against the Deceiver for like turning everyone into Necron, and it's like his goal is to wipe out the Deceiver and the Satans. Like, he's happy with how everything's kind of working. Cool.
After I take over the galaxy, I would love to have some shattered gods to hang on my wall personally.
Yeah. Well, when you say it like that, that is a pretty alluring.
Pretty sweet trophy.
Yeah.
Pretty fucking sweet.
And you live in the same galaxy as Trazen, so you can literally pick fights with the guy just to keep yourself preoccupied as he's going to try to steal him, and you try and steal him back.
Yeah. That's the best way to defeat a kidnapper or a rapist. Do it to them first before they do it to you.
Capture the flag.
Whoa.
Lorehammer Legal, back at it.
I'm not here to encourage Mark to be a more moral human. I'm here to encourage him to be worse.
Yeah. I just like acting like an idiot and making outlandish statements, so it's fun sometimes. That was a fun episode. Very interesting. I kind of had a very base level understanding of Imotekh. He's the big bad of the Necron. What really stood out to me was just his relationship with the Silent King. I was the most interested in that when doing this episode, just to see how they actually kind of, they're not just caving to this guy coming back. But fun episode. Let's jump to our ad notes and we'll wrap her up here. Go check out Lorehammer Listen to Lore podcast. I read homebrew listener lore. A lot of it is pretty well written, and I do enjoy reading it. So keep sending it, and then check out the Lorehammer Listen to Lore podcast.
And I already shilled for Grim Lore earlier in this episode, but when you're done listening to stuff about 40K, come on over to Grim Lore and listen to stuff about Warhammer Fantasy and a little bit of Age of Sigmar. Good times are had all around, and of course, just as much silliness and debauchery over on that Discord as well. So there you go.
Absolutely. And if you like this content and you want some more, you can't get enough lore, you can jump into another universe, the Star Wars universe, on the Star Lords podcast with me and Christian, that guy. And it's fun times all around. So go check out the Star Lords podcast.
there are a lot of hours in a work day to kill. So, when you're done here, go check those boys out. Well, everyone, thanks for joining me. Nito, Nemo, Jordan, Gerald, thanks.
Pleasure.
Peace.